Hey there movie lovers, welcome back to Rocky Watches Movies. Today we're hacking into the 1983 classic WarGames. This thrilling film, with its mix of technology, espionage and a young Matthew Broderick, became an instant favourite that left audiences questioning the power of computers. But while it's known for its tense moments and futuristic premise, there's so much more going on behind the scenes. So get typing, try to avoid starting World War III, and let's play through 20 things you never knew about WarGames. The film began as an idea known as the Genius. The concept originated when co-writer Lawrence Lasker watched a documentary featuring Stephen Hawking. Lasker was captivated by the notion that Hawking's work might one day unravel the mysteries of the universe, yet his ALS could prevent him from sharing that knowledge. Lasker envisioned a story pairing an older, wheelchair-bound genius, similar to Hawking, with a young, precocious teenager still searching for his place in the world. He took this idea to his former college roommate, Walter F. Parks, and with the backing of executive producer Leonard Goldberg, who found the idea intriguing, Lasker and Parks set off on a research journey in 1979. They began delving into the realms of hacking and phone phreaking. They ultimately consulted real-life hackers for insight, including John Captain Crunch Draper, who discovered that a whistle given away as a prize in a cereal box could be used to activate a phone line, allowing him to make free calls. They also spoke to David Scott Lewis, who spent his time finding ways around the rudimentary computer security measures of the time. Lasker and Parks incorporated the tricks they learned from these hackers, including the idea of setting the number of players in Joshua's tic-tac-toe game to 0 into the film. Lasker and Parks envisioned the central character, Dr. Falcon, as a dying genius with a few secrets, heavily inspired by Hawking, even including a motorized wheelchair. They initially sought John Lennon for the role, believing his persona perfectly suited the part. However, Lennon's tragic death in 1980 forced them to recast, with John Wood ultimately taking on the role. Director Martin Brest decided to remove the wheelchair from the character altogether, fearing it would evoke comparisons to Dr. Strangelove. The two writers had doubts about the plausibility of their own story. According to Lasker, while working on the script, Park became disheartened one day and wondered aloud whether anyone would believe a story in which the entire US military was fooled by a kid trying to play a computer game. At that moment, Lasker turned on the news and heard Walter Cronkite reporting that the United States had believed it was under nuclear attack from the Soviet Union, simply because a simulation tape had been left in a machine. He turned off the TV and said, "Come on, let's keep working." After completing their extensive research and writing, they handed their script over to Goldberg, who began pitching the film to various studios. The initial reception was dismissive, as executives struggled to grasp the plausibility of the story. United Artists agreed to take on the project and wanted Martin Brest as director, who was still riding high from his breakout film Going in Style from 1979. He liked the script and accepted the job, but this would soon present a new challenge for the production. Brest envisioned WarGames as a darker thriller, clashing with the studio's vision for a light-hearted adventure. His darker tone was reflected in both his script changes and early footage, which the studio did not like. United Artists ultimately replaced Brest with John Badham. This unexpected turn shocked the young cast, but Brest assured them their roles were safe. He soon landed on his feet. His next project was the massive comedy hit Beverly Hills Cop, starring Eddie Murphy. While most of Brest's work was discarded, two scenes remain in the film. The scene where David visits two fellow computer nerds for advice, and the moment when David stops at a payphone after sneaking out of NORAD. When Brest was still at the helm, his darker vision clashed with Lasker and Parks' preference for a lighter tone, leading to constant arguments during script development. One day, an unusually calm phone call from Brest made Parks suspect they were about to be fired, which soon proved true. Lasker and Parks' second draft of the script, ignored under Brest's direction, was eventually discovered by John Badham. He deemed it by far the best and brought the writers back on board. If you're enjoying the video, a subscribe to the channel would be the only winning move. General Beringer, the tough cigar-chomping NORAD commander, is one of the film's most memorable characters. The character was inspired by NORAD's then real commander James Hartinger, whom screenwriters Lasker and Parks met during a tour of the Cheyenne Mountain Complex. After the tour, Hartinger approached them, joked about the movie being based on him, and insisted they join him for a drink. He also supported the film's cautionary message about machines taking over, saying, "God damn, you're right. I sleep well at night knowing I'm in charge." To ensure authenticity, Broderick was required to learn how to type for the role. He was also given a Gallagher arcade machine to keep in his room during filming, helping him appear good at the game in the introductory scene where his character plays it. Badham felt the film needed an emotional pause amidst its fast-paced climax. To address this, Badham and producer Goldberg enlisted screenwriter Tom Mankiewicz, known for Superman and The Man with the Golden Gun. He quickly wrote the lakeside scene where David and Jennifer, facing potential nuclear annihilation, share regrets before sharing a kiss. David about never learning to swim, Jennifer about not being on TV. The scene was completed in just one day. "I think we got Mankiewicz a washer-dryer or something," Goldberg has joked. Determined to inject a sense of fun into the film, Badham encouraged improvisation. Some of the most memorable moments came from this approach, such as General Beringer's line, "I'd piss on a spark plug if I thought it'd do any good." Barry Corbin, who played Beringer, later revealed this line was inspired by a real-life experience of one of his cousins. When deciding on the voice for the Joshua computer, Badham initially considered using a child's voice to evoke the memory of Falcon's late son. Ultimately, though, he opted for something closer to Falcon's own voice, and asked Wood to take on the role, but with a unique twist. To record Joshua's dialogue, Badham instructed Wood to read the lines backwards, ensuring each word was enunciated with precision. Badham explained that if you read it backwards, you're forced to say each word really flatly. Try it. Recreating the climactic scene today, where the Joshua computer plays out every possible nuclear war scenario on the massive NORAD screens until concluding, the only winning move is not to play, would be relatively straightforward. However, over 3 decades ago, before CGI dominated blockbuster filming, it was a much more complex endeavour. To bring their vision to life, 5 film projectors were set up at the back of the room to project images onto the 5 largest screens on the war room wall, while 7 more projectors were positioned behind the wall to rear project images onto the smaller screens beneath the larger ones. Visual effects supervisor Michael L. Fink developed what was, at the time, the world's brightest strobe system for 24 frames per second filmmaking to create the strobe effect scene when explosions appear on the screens. And that was all controlled from an Apple II computer. The NORAD command center built for the film cost an astonishing $1 million, making it the most expensive set ever constructed at the time. Since the producers were not granted access to the real NORAD command center, they had to rely on their imagination to create it. Badham said that the real command center is far less extravagant than the movie's version, describing the set as NORAD's wet dream of itself. The film had one particularly notable fan, President Ronald Reagan. Reagan saw WarGames during an opening weekend screening at Camp David, arranged by screenwriter Lawrence Lasker, who was a family friend. The president was so captivated by the film that the following week he interrupted a meeting on upcoming nuclear negotiations with the Russians to recount its plot in detail. When he finished, he turned to General John W. Vesey Jr., then chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and asked him to investigate the plausibility of the scenario. After conducting research, Vesey reported back, confirming that WarGames highlighted a genuine and emerging threat in the nascent field of cybersecurity. Just over a year later, Reagan signed a classified national security directive titled National Policy on Telecommunications and Automated Information Systems Security. This marked the first presidential directive on computer security, all inspired by a film about a teenager who just wanted to play computer games. According to John Badham, the scene in which a Jeep crashes into the gate at NORAD and flips over was a genuine accident. The Jeep was originally meant to drive straight through the gate, but the stunt didn't go as planned. To make it work, the filmmakers added a scene of the characters fleeing from the overturned Jeep and running down the tunnel, seamlessly incorporating the unintentional mishap into the final cut. WarGames premiered on the 3rd of June 1983 to widespread critical acclaim and box office success, ranking as the 5th highest grossing film of 1983 in the United States and Canada. It earned a worldwide total of over $124 million on a budget of about $12 million. It also earned 3 Academy Award nominations for Best Original Screenplay, Best Sound, and Best Cinematography. The computer in David's room is an IMSI 8080. According to its supplier, Matthew Broderick saved an entire day of shooting by independently figuring out a programming sequence for the keyboard after the instructions were lost. In 1984, a video game adaptation was released for the ColecoVision, Commodore 64, and Atari 8-bit computers. The game began by greeting players as Professor Falcon, and the objective was to play a game of global thermonuclear war. Players had to prevent a nuclear war by using various military vehicles and weapons to protect the country, all while racing against a time limit and avoiding reaching DEFCON 1. In November 2006, pre-production began on a sequel titled WarGames: The Dead Code. Directed by Stuart Gillard, the film starred Matt Lanter as a hacker named Will Farmer, who faces off against a government supercomputer called Ripley. MGM released the sequel directly to DVD in July 2008, alongside the 25th anniversary edition DVD of WarGames. To promote the sequel, the original film returned to select theatres for a one-night-only 25th anniversary event. And there you have it, folks. You now know a little bit more about WarGames. If you enjoyed the video, which I presume you did as you got this far, hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss any future videos coming to Rocky Watches Movies. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.